Uh, Good evening, one and all. Welcome to the Mental Health Webinar Series 2020 and 2021. Today we are in 484th session. Today we are going to see the topic Mindfulness in Relationship by the resource person, Mrs. Mahalakshmi Rajagopal ma'am. She completed her PG Psychology and Social Work from Madras University. Right now she is practicing individually. She is a consultant, trainer, psychologist, and she wrote several books. She is specialized in counseling in special needs children, so empowering the families of special needs. And she is conducted a lot of seminars. She is specialized in mindfulness and other areas as well. I would like to invite today's resource person, all the participants, on behalf of American College, Madurai, MS Chellamuthi Institute, Madurai, Madras School of Social Work, Chennai, Red Pond Educational Psychological Research Center, Madurai, Yellow Pond Counseling Center, and Tamil Nadu Career Counseling Association, and Tamil Nadu Counseling Psychotherapy Association. With this kind note, I would like to invite today's resource person, Mrs. Mahalakshmi Rajagopal ma'am, to take over the session. Ma'am, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Salim sir. A very good evening to all the participants here. And I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to talk about mindfulness in relationships in this webinar today. Thank you very much. And a very good evening to every one of you. Hope you and your families are all safe and healthy. To start off with, we all know mindfulness is the thing that is being spoken of nowadays, right? We all know that we speak a lot about mindfulness. And in most spaces, in many situations, mindfulness is more spoken about from the spiritual angle. Yes, as psychologists, we are all very familiar with mindfulness-based stress reduction, the MBSR, right? But here I usually what I talk a lot about is about how to use mindfulness in a day-to-day relationships. Are the slides visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible. You can go ahead.
Yeah. So what I talk about here is about mindfulness in relationships. Now, relationships, whether in the personal life or in professional life, is what makes or breaks our life. This is what I strongly believe. And I'm sure many of you do agree with me. Where irrespective of how well placed you are in life, what degrees that you have, what is your financial balance, if we are not able to experience healthy relationships at home as well as at workplace, we cannot be happy and we cannot live in a harmonious life. So relationships form the foundation for our successful and happy living. And today I would like to talk about how we can use mindfulness in relationships and how mindfulness need not always be connected to meditation. To start off with, I would like to show you a short video. I think you're not able to hear the audio. I will share the link of the video and I'll share the presentation at the end of the session with the in the group so that you'll be able to watch it. But this video does have a lot of, the captions are coming up, so you will be able to read it as we go ahead. So just as a continuation of the video, let us just do a very simple activity right now, which will help you to connect and understand exactly what this mindfulness is about and what this video was about. So the video was basically trying to help us to understand that mindfulness doesn't mean just meditating. And I always give this example. All of us have this experience of riding a vehicle. It could be a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler. So when we are driving, what are we doing? Though we are focusing on the road and we are focusing on the direction that we need to go, we are also simultaneously aware and paying attention to the other vehicles or anybody, pedestrians wanting to cross the road. But we are not focusing on them. Now, this is exactly whatever you are doing with regarding paying attention to the other vehicles on the road or the pedestrians who want to cross the road. That is what is a state of mindfulness. In mindfulness, we are not really focusing, but we are just aware, and we are just at a state of readiness. We are not judging. See, we are not thinking, oh, is this guy going to overtake me? Is this guy going to honk? Is this guy going to take a wrong turn? No, we just are thinking, okay, this vehicle is behind me. This vehicle is to my right. The other vehicle is to the left. This is all that we are aware of. We are not judging them. We are not assessing them. We are not assuming anything. That state is actually mindfulness. And you know what? All of us, without learning, without being taught, we do practice mindfulness in some ways, in some situations, right? But we do not realize that we are practicing mindfulness. Another example I would like to give you is, all of us have had this experience of playing with a baby, right? All of us would have played with a small baby. Now, when we are playing with a small baby, are we expecting that the baby should gurgle, the baby should lift his arm towards us, or hold our finger? No, we just play. And as the baby is playing, the baby turns, we laugh. The baby laughs, we laugh. The baby holds on to our finger, we hold on to the finger. What are we doing? We are not judging the baby. We are not assuming anything. We are not expecting anything from the baby. And that is exactly the reason why that we experience bliss when we are playing with a baby. Is there anybody who can tell me, oh my God, playing with a baby is such a stress, or that is the most disgusting thing that I've ever done? I don't think we'll ever hear this, because all of us will unanimously agree playing with a baby is just bliss. And why is it bliss? Because we are mindfully playing, and we are mindfully experiencing whatever experience we have with a baby. This is a very simple example. And I'm sure when you all recall these experiences, however old they may be, you will realize that you have really enjoyed that time with the baby. So let us just do a very small experiment or an activity right now. I would just ask you all to close your eyes and just be with your body for the time period that I am asking you to be with. So we start right now. Just be with your body. Try to connect with your body. You may or may not close your eyes. It's totally up to you. You just connect with your body. It could be to one specific part, or it could be to the entire body. Just connect and just be with your body. These are certain very unique experiences which we just do not indulge in our day-to-day life. Just be with your body. If your body is speaking to you, listen to your body. If your body is communicating something to you, be receptive. Just be there for your body, with your body. Let's stop. How was the experience? Would anybody like to share? Anybody would like to share? Were you able to be with your body? Did you have any different kind of an experience? How many of you felt? Yes,
Yes,
please.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm Soumya here. Yes, ma'am. I'm able to focus on one part of the body. I didn't think about anything. Only just center of my eyebrows.
Center of your eyebrows, right?
Yeah.
You
In
feel
between
there
my
are
eyebrows.
others who are okay. There are others who are putting on the chat box. We feel sensation, feeling very light. I have freshness, feeling relaxed. Did anybody discover anything specific that, oh, this particular part is, I began to sense pulses on my body? Beautiful. Did anybody get to connect and understand, oh, this particular part of my body is stiff, or this particular part of my body, the pain was there and now it is not there? Any such kind of realizations or awareness that we got? Anybody?
Yeah, Rupa, and
Yes.
after section, I have found like, oh my God, my body is so much helpful. I felt a feeling of thankful towards it, that it is supporting me to sit in that posture, comfort, and yes, because of crossing my leg, I felt like a stiffness in my knees.
Oh, beautiful. You experience gratitude because you realize that your body is so helpful to you. Wonderful. So, what we did in this 1 minute was just being mindful of our physical body. So we just paid attention to our body and we realized that our body, I felt blessed, Monica says. Yes, it's really truly a beautiful experience when we try to connect. I remember once when I was doing this kind of an experiment or an activity with a client, I told him to, be mindful when he was having his cup of tea. And when he finished it, he said, you know what? I never realized that we could even be mindful of this activity. Drinking tea has become so monotonous. I don't even recognize its taste. I don't recognize the temperature of it. I just swallow it. And Bhavani says, I felt relaxed. So, and he said it was such a beautiful experience, and there was a lovely relationship with the tea drinking experience. Now, that is what mindfulness does to us. Mindfulness is it is something like a blessing to us, which we can actually use, and we need not be into a state of meditation. So, it actually, whether you are into a spiritual practice or not, you can definitely use mindfulness for your own welfare. And that is what I'm here to talk to you and lead you through today. And we are going to try to understand how we can use mindfulness. 1 second. Uh, just give me a minute. Yeah. Yes, is the are you able to see the presentation once again?
Yes, madam. Yes, yes, madam.
Yeah. Wait. Okay, so when I'm talking about mindfulness, which is not as an aspect of meditation, how can mindfulness help you? Mindfulness is a very, very effective practice where it helps you to regulate your emotions. So when we talk about regulation of emotions, I am not using the word control. Why? Because again, control of emotions, the psychologists here would very well agree with me. Controlling an emotion is unhealthy, whereas regulating an emotion is what is very healthy. And when you are mindful, you are able to regulate your emotions, which means you are in the now of experiencing your emotions. So if you are grieving, you know, yes, right now I'm grieving, and you do not use a defense mechanism and suppress the grief or use it in some other way and bring in unhealthy coping mechanisms. You know what is the emotion that you're experiencing, and you experience that emotion. You are also aware when this particular emotion is overwhelming you, and you are able to handle it effectively. That is very, very advantageous of using mindfulness as a technique. When we regularly practice mindfulness, it helps us to broaden our perspectives. What do we mean by broadening our perspectives? It is as simple as, again, if I go back to that example of the driving on the road, when you are, how, if I'm just going to take that example, what is it? It's not that you're not just focused on only your car has to be safe, you have to reach your destination. You are not just worried only, your focus is not only on the signals or the road. You are also aware of the other traffic, the rest of the traffic. You are aware of the anybody who wants to cross the road. So your perspective about the travel per se is broad. You're not aware of it, but actually it is broad. So in real life also, how does mindfulness help you to broaden your perspective? When you are mindful, you are able to see the other person's perspective too, without judging, without really, you may or may not agree to what the other person says or does, but you are able to see why the other person is behaving so. For recently, I had this young person who was sharing with me about, her relationship. She was sharing about her job and her stress with regarding her job, and she wanted to quit her job. Now, I was able to understand, though I was not able to agree that she needed to quit the job because it was just 3 months into the job, and teething problems always are there for any kind of job. I was able to perceive why she was behaving so. She comes from a broken home. She comes from a home where she doesn't get any kind of support. So the minute she experiences even the minimal kind of an insecurity, her mind just jumps back to relating it to the high level of insecurity in her personal life, and that makes her feel even more insecure. And this heightened insecurity in a new job was what was making her feel that she needed to quit the job. Now, my perspective about the whole scene broadened because I was very mindful in that entire conversation, as a result of which I was able to see beyond what she was seeing. So, when you are a mindful person, your perspectives automatically broaden. Unconditional positive regard. Now, unconditional positive regard is a very, very important part of a psychologist's life, especially in clinical practice. But unconditional positive regard is something which is a very useful and a very beneficial aspect if we all learn to adopt it even in our daily life. It helps us a lot in relationships. So irrespective of how the other person is in the relationship, when I talk about relationship, I'm not just talking about a spouse or a very close friend or a companion. It can be any kind of a relationship. So even if we are referring to in-laws, we are talking about colleagues or a boss, if we need to have a healthy and a harmonious life, we would need to experience unconditional positive regard. Now, unconditional positive regard can be adopted easily by practicing mindfulness. Another important benefit of practicing mindfulness is you become a more resilient person. A resilience is something, again, we are all in the pandemic, so I think all of us have, the universe and the COVID has taught us to become resilient individuals, and resilience with regarding relationships, resilience with regarding daily life, our own emotional health can be built up by practicing mindfulness regularly. Now we are also going to see how we can reach these 4 areas when we practice mindfulness in relationships. So first, let us try to understand what is a mindful relationship. Now, as we go through these points, I would request all of you to side by side also use this like an activity. For each of this point that I'm referring to, I would request you all to rate yourself with one particular person in any relationship on a scale of 0 to 5. In the sense, choose any person in your life with whom you have a relationship. It could be your spouse, it could be your parent, sibling, it could be your boss, colleague, or a friend, or a companion. Choose that particular person and try to rate, to understand how open or how transparent is this relationship. Yes, please, you can do it with your mom. Now try, how transparent are you in this particular relationship? Presently, only you are here in this session, so we are going to refer it from your side. So if you are able to recognize this, then you would be able to understand whether this particular relationship is a mindful relationship or not. How transparent are you in this relationship? So any mindful relationship means there is transparency, there is honesty, there is openness, and there is no secrets beyond that relationship. So it doesn't mean that, so here that we need to understand what exactly is the difference between transparency and overindulgence. So it doesn't mean that anything, say suppose this is your mother and you are also a married person, or you are in a dating relationship, there you have a companion. So transparency with your mother doesn't mean you would share anything and everything which is in a relationship with your spouse with your mother. That we need to be able to differentiate and understand that by doing that, then there is an intrusion happening in the other relationship. So if we are talking with regarding the relationship with your mother or your parent, then your assessment with regarding whether this relationship is mindful is all about how transparent are you in this relationship with your mother. How patient are you in this relationship? Mindful relationship is all about being patient. Wonderful, Vishal. You could go ahead and assess for each of it. How patient are you? How many times have you shown impatience? How many times you have felt, oh, how I wish this person was a little more faster in understanding things, or not so rigid, or not, being so slow in her work or her activities or her perceptions. So patience is the second one. And in a mindful relationship, you are receptive to know about the other and about the relationships. So how much have you gone ahead to know about your person in this relationship? It could be your mother, it could be your colleague. How much are you receptive? Many a times what happens is we are not interested to know what's happening in their life. How many times when we come back from work, the person at home, we take our time to know how their day has gone, how their life is, how are they looking at challenges. We may just brush off saying, if your person at home, it could be your mother, grandmother, mother-in-law, anybody who just wants to share a part of the scene of a serial or some movie that they have watched, we just brush it off saying, I don't have the time. How much are we receptive to know about their life, what's going on in their space? That is what is mindful relationship all about. How compassionate are we with the other person? How compassionate are we? I'm very happy that Vishal is very seriously pursuing the activity. Thank you very much for this interest. Compassion is very, very important. Are we compassionate towards the other person, or do we just go on saying, oh, she always cribs, or she's always judgmental, she's always slow, or you know what, my father cannot think of anything beyond marks, or my father cannot think anything beyond investment, so there's no point talking to the other person. So are we brushing away the person that way, or are we compassionate? How compassionate are we in this particular relationship? Do we understand the person? Do we understand the relationship? How many times when we talk about, we think we understand, but have we really understood the person as they want to be understood? Have we understood the relationship as they want to be they want it to be understood? That is what is understanding all about. I understand. Many times we say that, and you know what, this is something which I have even come across with parents. When parents come to me with adolescent children and a lot of complaints, a lot of worries, a lot of stress, and I just tell them, can you make a list of what are all the things that you're proud about your child? Now the child might be 15 or 14 or sometimes even 13. Very often it's very sad that parents look back at me and say, ma'am, he's only 13 years old. What is there to be proud of him? I'm telling you that he's poor in studies. I'm telling you he back answers me. What is there to be proud of him? Now, in these situations, there is no mindfulness in the relationship. The parent hasn't understood the child, right? So understanding in the relationship, understanding the other person in the relationship, how much have you been able to understand? Respect for space as well as intimacy. Now, this is something which we misunderstand most of the time, and this is where we lose our mindfulness in a relationship very often, because we think that when we have a shared space in a relationship, shared space is the same as intimacy, is the misconception most of us have. Yes, do you have something to share? Is there something to share? Okay, we could have a discussion once I finish the presentation. So respect for space as well as for intimacy. Now, this is something which, is comes into a lot of problems, and many people who believe that they are in mindful relationships also realize, when we start discussing about space, they also realize that this is where the relationship is thinning out or waning out, and mindfulness in the relationship doesn't exist, or exist very, very minimal in this space. So we, in any relationship, how intimate we are. Now, intimacy is not related to only sex. Intimacy is not related to only a physical intimacy. We talk about emotional intimacy, intellectual intimacy. Intimacy is nothing but being able to be just, again, when I use the word stark naked, I mean as a person, with your emotions, with your intelligence, with your intellectual space, how much you can be open is what talks about the intimacy in the relationship. So there are two things here. In a mindful relationship, do you have an intimate relationship with the other person? Can you be as intimate as you we feel like in the relationship? Second thing is, as you are intimate with that person, are you able to respect the space? Are you able to claim your space in the relationship? Can there be a combination of all of these things in the relationship? This is something which is a very, very important point for us to ponder, because as I said earlier, this is where many relationships slip because of lack of awareness. Supportive of difficult conversations. This is again another part in any relationship where we fail. And if you are not able to support a difficult conversation in the relationship, then the relationship is not mindful. So what do we mean by talking about a supportive of difficult conversations? So it could even be where the person, we are all parts of various WhatsApp groups, right? We have family WhatsApp group, cousins WhatsApp group, friends WhatsApp group, college WhatsApp group, colleagues WhatsApp group, everywhere. But you would realize that we are all very careful, and we want to be politically correct in conversations. We want to be politically correct in discussions. We avoid difficult conversations. How easy it is for us to walk up to a family member and say, yes, I'm here for you to let us talk about this, where you felt uncomfortable with me in this particular situation. I am ready to listen. Can we do that? Can we be supportive in a difficult conversation? Now, this is the step 2. Even step 1, many of us don't do. Step 2, where I am meeting my relationship person, my spouse, my father, my daughter, anybody, and saying, come on, talk to me. I'm ready to listen where it was difficult for you to connect with me. That is step 2. Even step 1, say in a family, are you able to go and talk to your daughter or your son and say, come on, tell me, where is it difficult for you? What is the difficulty that you have with your dad? Or if you're the father, you want to talk about the mother. Are we ready to talk about that? Are you ready to talk to your spouse about where your spouse is having difficulties with your parent? These are all difficult conversations. And we cannot get into, and even if we start these conversations, are we continuing it in a mindful manner? No. The minute your spouse, you may tell your spouse, okay, I'm ready to listen. Tell me about my mother. Where are you finding it difficult? Now, the minute your spouse starts talking, immediately would jump into defense and say, I don't think my mother meant that. I think you need to look at it this way. Then there is no mindfulness there. Supportive, these 2 points is where most relationships fail in being mindful. Respect for space as well as intimacy, as well as supportive of difficult conversations. These are the 2 places where many relationships fail the mindfulness test. The last 2, empathy. Yes, your spouse may be going through a difficult time. The spouse might have lost a job. Your spouse might have an addiction to cigarettes, or your spouse may be addicted to cleaning. Your spouse can be in another relationship. But can we be empathetic in a mindful relationship? Please don't get me wrong. When I say you need to be empathetic in a relationship, if the person is in another relationship, doesn't mean that you accept and agree. Being empathetic is to understand the why of an action. That is what is empathy all about, understanding the why of the action. And gratitude, irrespective of how the relationship is going, can I experience gratitude? Can I be grateful? And that is what is a mindful relationship about. We will go ahead to see the next. So if all of you have done this assessment for your own self with any specific relationship, you would know whether you are in a mindful relationship or not. Has this small activity that I requested you all to do, did it help you to recognize how mindful you are in a relationship? Which you probably, so again, let me put across one more clarification. Just because the relationship is not in a mindful space doesn't mean that you're not in harmony. Probably you are leading a harmonious life, but it is not necessarily a mindful relationship. And when it is not mindful, then automatically there are emotional baggages, there are stresses and strains which can be avoided if we slip from this harmony, which is sometimes superficial, into a mindful relationship. That is what I'm trying to put across. So what are the 3 things which are very essential if we have to reach a mindful relationship? If we have to reach a mindful relationship, and whatever I just now shared as the points which are essential for a relationship to be mindful, there are just 3 things that we need to do. We need to mindfully observe, we need to mindfully listen, and we need to be able to have a mindful speech when we communicate. Okay, how often do we do this? It's very, very easy. Now your spouse is walking into the bedroom with a wet towel. What goes on in your mind? Is it mindful observation? Now this fellow is going to put the wet towel on the bed, right? Automatically. Okay. Now this even I have done. My daughter comes, when my daughters used to go to school or even college, oh, they are coming back. They will now, as they walk in, they go directly into the bedroom. They are going to forget to put the tiffin box for washing. And then what happens? The minute this judgment gets into your head, who gets into the irritated space? It is I. They are very happy. They have come back from school. They can throw their bag. They can, relax. But who is not mindful and who is being judgmental in the observation? And who gets into the irritated space? Me. What is a mindful observation? As I just gave the example of playing with a baby, right? That is mindful observation. You are just seeing, you're just waiting. You are okay with any gesture that the baby shows, any movement that the baby shows, and you're just okay with it. Can we experience that kind of an observation with any person in our life? That is mindful observation, right? So next time, this is very simple, and I'll just be sharing one list of activities also for you to practice at home, to bring it into practice. So as I said, actually we are all practicing mindful observation in different ways. Now I have this beautiful experience. You would all have done this. So about 10 days back, I was in Uttarakhand amongst the mountains. So getting up in the morning, just looking at the mountains, just seeing the clouds, seeing the clouds go over and above the mountains, hiding the top peak at some time. You are not expecting anything. That is just mindful observation. So what happens when you are mindfully observing? You are just one with the nature there. You are just absorbed. You are just drinking in whatever the nature is offering you. Can we do this in a relationship? If we can do it with nature, we can do it in a relationship too. So next time a family member is talking, or next time your family member is into some activity, just observe. Just observe. Train yourself, consciously tell yourself, I am not going to judge, I'm just going to observe, and see how you enjoy that observation. That is a different level of experience and an enjoyment. The next one is mindful listening. I'll again give you a very easy example which we all know about not being mindful. Where are we mindless? The minute your domestic help, most of us have domestic help now that the COVID is over. The minute your domestic help starts one word of saying, Amma, madam, immediately what goes into your mind? Now she's going to ask for leave. Right? We are not listening. We have already decided, we have already judged what is in her mind. We think we are mind readers and we have decided. That is mindless listening. So what happens is, even if she's going to request for leave or she's going to say she's going to come late, our head is already working with what you want to say, how you want to retort, how many leaves she has already taken this month, how you should threaten her with the salary cut, blah, 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 blah. At the end of it, probably she just wants to share something about, some purchase she has made, or something she wants to crib about her spouse or her child. Whereas we lose out of that time of being at a tranquil state because of our mindless listening. Now, where do we listen mindfully? Again, go back to the baby example. We are mindfully listening when the baby is gurgling, when the baby is laughing. We just enjoy. We are not expecting that this laughter means this. We are not judging that this gurgle means this. We are just enjoying. We are just listening. The same way, when we listen to the birds chirping, early morning, when we are listening to the birds, we are just listening. We are not judging them. We are not assuming. And that gives us bliss. So can we listen to our family members mindfully? We can. If we can listen to some random bird mindfully, we definitely can listen to our family members mindfully. Just listen. So when you're listening, you're not going to judge, you're not going to have an opinion, you're not going to assume. And you will realize how much of learning happens when you are listening. And what is mindful speech? Just be aware of your tone, be aware of your emotion, be aware of the volume, be aware of your words. And if you're angry, so mindful speech doesn't mean that you will never get angry, you will never get sad. Mindful speech means you are aware, you acknowledge, and you accept the emotion that you're going through at that particular moment. That is what is mindfulness all about. If we practice these three aspects in a relationship, you will be able to, you can even document and see how with you practicing these three, you will be able to see how the relationship progresses towards a mindful relationship. I do have another video here, but since you're not able to listen to the volume, thank you, sir, for your appreciation. I will be sharing the presentation on the group, and you can listen to it on your own laptops. So I just go ahead to the simple activities. This is what I just shared with you. If you could just practice these three activities, it would be able to help you to practice mindfulness. And actually practicing mindfulness in a relationship is not at all difficult. It is actually easy the minute we start practicing, using it in our daily life. Do we have any questions here, please? Any questions?
Ma'am, actually, I don't have any questions, but I want to share some words with you, ma'am. Actually,
Yes,
this
please.
title is not new to me, ma'am. The mindfulness, I know everything. We studied a lot about this. We crossed so many things about this. And I thought, I thought I'm very good in this, and I'm maintaining a very good mindfulness relationship with all and everything. But I feel with some persons, I'm not easy with them. They are also not easy with me. I thought that is their mistake only. I thought like that only. Uh, Now attending your session, I'm just comparing. I'm just going back where I'm lacking. Now I'm getting the point. Simply, I can say I analyze what we do with my mom. It is right. If it is with my mom-in-law, I'm not listening. While you are saying, I'm thinking, what is the difference? Why my relation is good with my mom, but not with my in-laws and all,
Mother.
mother-in-law and all the in-laws. The direct relation I'm doing very good, but I'm not something. I thought they were not right. They are wrong only. I think like that only. But now I think if we change this aspect or this thing, it may be they also will be easy with me, no? So it's very thanks to you, ma'am, because I can now I feel I can try to change my attitude with them also, so that my life become more beautiful than now. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
I really appreciate your courage to speak so openly in this forum. And it's a beautiful realization that you have received. And this itself shows that how mindful you are. You know, it's one thing to understand, acknowledge, and it's totally something to be able to share courageously in a group. So I really appreciate you and applaud you for that. It is wonderful. Just one more point I would like to add here. Yes, it's very beautifully you have understood that all that you need to put in practice is mindful listening. And as I mentioned earlier also, and I'm sure you know since you've been teaching about mindfulness will help us to understand where the other person is coming from. That is why I gave the example of another person, probably being in another relationship, and you may not agree and approve, but you will understand. So many times, even with your mother-in-law, there may be things which you may not agree, but you will understand why she behaves so or she connects so, and that will give you peace, and you will not get agitated, or you will not get, into a negative harmony with her. That might help you.
Ma'am, it was excellent, ma'am, enlightening deliberation by you. With a short time, you could able to cover everything, and we are able to get all the information and learnings, ma'am. Ma'am, my question is, this
Yeah.
mindful practicing will have any impact if there is any dysfunctional upbringing from the childhood, if a person is having. So does that have any impact on this practicing mindfulness or
See, if a person has basically you're trying to say if a child has been brought up in a dysfunctional family setup, can
yes, ma'am.
yeah,
If their upbringing is not a proper, like with a
yeah.
normal child.
So absolutely. So in such cases, probably if the person needs certain therapy for clearing some baggages and helping them to balance their emotional state, then when they start, after that, when they are taught to practice mindfulness, that will enhance their relationships.
Mhm. Yeah. So
I
that
hope
too.
that answers your question.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Even, ma'am, I wanted to understand, even
Yeah,
mindfulness practice, it will help us in our regulation of emotions, no? So,
absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So that is a very important thing, Normally
Yes,
nowadays, people will have a lot of thoughts, feelings, means emotions. They are unable to
absolutely.
control the emotions and they go into consequences. So, which is
Absolutely.
a very, very bad. Again, it will backfire the person. So,
Yes.
emotion regulation is a very important thing that one should.
Absolutely. Yeah. So see, very important is when you start practicing mindfulness, you first need to be mindful about your own thoughts, your own emotions, and you
Yeah, yeah.
also need to have the courage to acknowledge and accept it. That is very, very important. Am I able to accept, yes, I am angry. I am angry with my parent, or I am angry with my spouse. And that doesn't end there. Why am I angry? How do I deal with my anger? And then how do I set my relationship back to track is what the whole process is all about. So you can't just leave it there and forget it and say, no, I'm angry and I'm mindful. That doesn't help. So mindfulness is a process. It's a journey by itself in the relationship. And only when you complete the entire process will you be able to practice it effectively and bring about results in your relationship.
So, yeah, thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions, please? So there are various benefits of applying mindfulness in relationships. It reduces stress in the relationship, improves your own sense of well-being. You can have a greater relationship satisfaction. That is why I mentioned some time back that this doesn't mean that your relationships are not harmonious. It may be harmonious, that there can be certain elephants in the room which you are not addressing, or there may be many elephants in the room which you're not addressing. Mindfulness will help you to address and tackle that, and that will give the relationship a better satisfaction. Many times, as the number of years of marriage goes, you hear many people saying that, we hardly have anything to talk. We just come back, we talk only the necessities, we talk about the children. If we have to watch a movie, we watch a movie together. There's nothing to discuss. Now you're not in a conflicting relationship, but you are not actually in a mindful relationship, as a result of which you are not able to experience a deep sense of you're not able to hear me. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Very, very clearly.
Okay, thank you. So a greater relationship satisfaction would come in if you start practicing mindfulness. Better communication, you're able to speak, you're able to understand, and the communication enhances between the two people. Ability to separate the person and his actions. This is very, very important, and we need to be able to accept the person, and that is what is unconditional positive regard all about. Effective handling of emotional pain, past and present. If we are mindful, we do not carry baggages, and we also know how to handle and dispose of any emotional baggages which come into our space. Ability to respect space of self as well as the other. Many a times what happens is, because we think we have to save a relationship, we are not mindful and we give up on our space. Many a times we don't realize that we are being taken advantage of. We don't realize that we are allowing ourselves to be a victim in the relationship. And all that is because we do not practice mindfulness. So if we are able to practice mindfulness, we will be able to have our own space in the relationship, respect our space, at the same time respect the other person's space. Any questions? Any questions? Any
Ma'am, can you refer us some reference books on mindfulness, ma'am, so that we can gather more information?
Probably I let mindfulness. I follow a lot of mindfulness articles and papers written by Martin Seligman, because positive psychology uses Martin Seligman as a. Martin Seligman in positive psychology, they use mindfulness as one of the important strategies to reach the state of well-being. So, and in many places, even when you read his Learned Optimism, when you read his book, Authentic Happiness, you will see how he brings about mindfulness in different ways to be practiced. So I strongly recommend, even the videos recommended by Martin Seligman. There are a couple of courses on Coursera on mindfulness, which is also very effective, and I have found it very useful.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Any other questions, please? So
Participants, you can ask MAG persons directly, or you can type in chat box.
Any questions in the chat box?
No, ma'am.
Ma'am, can I ask ma'am one thing?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, overall, what I understand in mindfulness, we have to separate our past and future. They should not come in the present moment. No, ma'am, that is what, no,
Absolutely.
ma'am, actually. So we
Yes.
should think what is going on now. Now what I can do better, how I know myself better. Maybe I was I was a thief in the past. So now got metamorphosed. So I have to think about the present. Don't think about the past again. So those again subconscious, conscious mind will make us to have a conflict. You know, ma'am?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The more and more we are in the present, we are able to practice mindfulness. So if there are no questions, may I? Any pro tip to be mindful 24/7? Okay. As I already said in the beginning, whether we are practicing or not, we at any time, sometime or the other, we have also been always, we are unconsciously mindful at some time or the other. What we right now, I'm only suggesting you all to do is, if you start practicing mindful observation, mindful listening, and mindful speech over a period of time, mindfulness becomes a way of life for you. And most important is, we being humans, we may not be able to practice anything 24/7 and 365 days in a year. So just accept whenever we slip, just accept and be again mindful about it, and just allow yourself to rectify and move ahead. This is what I would suggest.
Ma'am, even our perception of a person also will have impact on mindfulness.
Absolutely. See, when you start
Yeah.
becoming mindful, you will not be judging the person as this. You will be able to accept the person with his and her flaws as he is. So that is why mindfulness is very helpful.
Hello, ma'am.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Yes, ma'am.
Lavanya, ma'am. To hear your session, lots of examples. Thank you so much for it. I have one more question. Accessing this mindful relationship in workplace setting would be like any tips to consider. People are going to be judgmental. The higher officials are going to be like that. Having such kind of person around us, how to tackle such? How can we still maintain a mindful relationship in workplace setting?
Actually, her voice is not very audible, but let me just repeat what I heard. You want to know how to practice mindfulness at workplace when there are people who are judgmental and opinionated. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. See, here, whether it is at workplace or in family, we are now talking about how I can practice mindfulness. So we are in a universe, or we are in a society where we will find others who are judgmental, who can be scheming, who can be using a lot of defense mechanisms and faking, etc. So, but then here we want to practice mindfulness so that we remain holistically healthy, we remain in a state of harmony, irrespective of how the other person is. So in such situations, if you practice mindful observation, mindful listening, and mindful speech, you will not get affected by what the other person is into. And you will also not get affected by the other person's actions. You will be able to practice unconditional positive regard for the other person who may not be in a very healthy spectrum with regarding the emotional space. I do not want to use the word of rude or bad or etc. So the other person may not be in that healthy spectrum. Hello? Could you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. You go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so it's all about how you are able to handle that situation and not get affected by the office politics. And another important thing is, sometimes, see, it doesn't let us understand that just because we are learning to be mindful, we will doesn't mean that you need to continue if there is a toxic environment. So by being mindful, you will also be able to differentiate whether the environment is truly toxic, or is it my emotions which is making me feel so, and am I being too subjective about the whole thing. And the mindfulness will also help you to take the right decision to move away from the toxic environment with lesser harm to your own self. Does that help you?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other further questions? We need to be more patient in life. Patience is one of the requirements, but patience many times doesn't always help us to become mindful. It also tends to push us into becoming very subjective. So when you practice mindfulness, then you are able to develop better patience in a very positive way. So I think I would like to end the session here, and I thank you all for a patient listening and all your feedbacks.
A lot of positive comments, ma'am, in chat box.
Yeah, I'm really humbled to receive these positive feedbacks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. You explained nicely and beautifully mindful observation, mindful listening, and mindful speech. How we have to differentiate and how to practice in our day-to-day life. It was much helpful to all participants. Thank you, ma'am. Kindly accept our gratitude on behalf of American College, Madurai, MS Challamuthu Institute, Madurai, Madras School of Social Work, Chennai, Red Pond Educational Center, Yellow Pond Counseling Center, then Tamil Nadu Career Counseling Association, Tamil Nadu Counselor and Psychotherapist Association. We thank you, ma'am. Participants, we will have yet another wonderful session tomorrow evening. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. And thanks to every participant for your patient listening.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.